We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
I want to talk about news, don't want the drama. From no pretentious media Madonna. I found me a great ganja mama. Cannabis and coffee with Tamarijuana.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee. It's a beautiful day in these Kootenays today. Sun is shining. We are post 420, and it was a good day yesterday, actually. We had a 420 virtual coast to coast on Pace Radio with a lot of guests, and we had Madison on, and let me tell you, that kid can sing. I don't even know what else to say other than if you don't know who she is, check her out. And she's a local Cranbrook talent and she's amazing. So again, you can also hear that show again archived on Pace Radio as well. And I brought my returning guest back and my future co-host for Quebec Canada Connection, Miss Loretta Clark. Good morning, Loretta. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Talking with you is always fun, and I'm totally excited about the future. Today it's freezing in Montreal. We have
snow. You guys got
and it's
snow.
Really cold. Yeah. April is always, all four seasons in one one month.
Well, we've done 420 in Edmonton where it was blizzarding on our way up there and stuff too. So it's not like that out here too. But I couldn't believe I saw Al's picture this morning. It was Jack and he had like a whole fucking foot of snow on his jacket. I'm like, oh, looks like you guys got blasted.
That's why when yesterday, I believe it was Kim was mentioning 7/10 being July the 10th as like another important milestone to be made for cannabis. And it seems like, at least in July, especially July 10th, it's almost everywhere in Canada. It's going to be warm, right? And nice.
You can hope so. Yeah.
That'd be such a good, it's a good date to, build on the legacy, I think, of 420. Because 420, I haven't had too many 420s in Toronto or Ottawa or Montreal that have actually been warm. Almost, I'd have to say like almost 80 to 90% of them have been cold.
Yeah.
And, rainy and, which is, it's fine. I mean, it's always amazing how many people like turn out, but July the 10th, now that I'm getting older and I'm feeling a bit arthritic, I really like the 7th.
Our global marches, like the global marches are the first Saturday in May too, right? And like I said, that was where I got my start, was more the global marijuana marches, because 420, I was 35, 36 years old, and to me 420 was more of a teenager kind of, let's go out and smoke a bong kind of thing. So when I first got going, I went with Dana Beal, because it was a global marijuana march, and it was the Marijuana $1 Million March, and it was worldwide, and it was something that everybody was doing back then too. So I started with that. So it was the second Saturday of May, and it wasn't very warm then either, to be fair. It wasn't very warm then either. So
where did you do it? Did you do it in
Lethbridge?
Okay, and they actually good. Okay, so they have one. Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I did the first one in 2008. Then we went on 2009. Then we did the first 420 out in Lethbridge in 2011, and then I moved. And I know that they continued on. They had a bigger 420 there after I left. Then they had vendors and all kinds of stuff. So like I said, the paw prints that you leave behind, even if you move, everything little bit that you do is beneficial for the future. So
100%.
A little bit, there was a bit of resentment there. I won't lie. Like at first, when I first saw it, it was kind of like, fuck you guys. Like I did that. Now you're, but then I thought about it and the resentment kind of went away, and it was like, okay, well, that's kind of like a compliment, because they're still continuing with the work that you started. So sometimes you got to take that little green monster, because I often say this: jealousy is a useless emotion anyways. It just leads to hate and greed. So you just get over it. And then you look back and
Well,
you think,
also be
they're doing all
proud
these
of it. Be
amazing
proud
things.
of it, girlfriend.
Exactly.
Be proud of
Exactly.
it.
These people are continuing on with doing amazing things that you started. So just be proud of the fact that every little bit that you've done in the past has led to bigger things. If even it was somebody else doing it, it doesn't matter because every little paw print that you leave behind leads to bigger things.
Yeah, I always because I come from the history of the HIV in Toronto and how medical jumped off from there. I often talk to my friend Jim about it because he was, also in one of the first lounges in Toronto and dispensaries. And I just think and I always say to him, it's really important that we talk about the history so people understand the history. And I know we always think young people, well, of course, they will take things for granted if they, didn't have to grow up looking over their back all the time, and worrying about getting busted all the time. I mean, they won't have to worry about that. And we can, be mad at them if they don't show us, some respect or whatever. But I think education is really important. But remembering the history is really critical. So that's why I'm glad you have your own show so you can, remind people of the history.
Remind us old folks are still here that we've been, the pioneers and forefront. But there's people long before me, and I don't consider myself so much a pioneer. I followed in behind, the likes of Debbie Stolskiff and Al.
But
I did
still,
follow Emery for a
you're
long
pioneer
time
to
too.
someone. You're a pioneer to a generation, and also a pioneer in Lethbridge, Alberta, which, from what I've heard, it's like quite a religious town. So the fact that you pioneered there, that means you're a wild tea warrior pioneer. Where's that Viking hat? Where are those
Right?
Viking hat candies?
Right. I still haven't found those malls yet, lady. But yeah, like it's true though. But like I said, being in Lethbridge and the fact that my mom worked for the RCMP for 30 years kind of put a little into it,
That's even better.
right? So, and my brother's a guard at the jail. My brother actually handles a drug sniffing dog now, still to this day. So, it's not like I don't have any law enforcement in my family or law enforcement in my background. Your dad was the fire chief of Toronto, so you've got some public service in your background too. And I think that's what leads us to being activists, is that we have parents or family that did public service. And even if we can't do, because of me and my criminal record, the public service, I'd like to go work with old folks, but because I got a criminal record, they won't let me do that. So I've got to find my own niche in volunteerism and public service with a criminal record, which is a fucking huge barrier.
Well,
so kids, be thankful that you don't have to worry about getting busted for pot anymore, because I did.
Kidding.
Look at me.
I know. It's wrong that that's not expunged. It just is wrong. And this is why, I'm really dedicated to ending the drug war, wanting to have lounges where there are meetings with police and community about the negative impact of the drug war, what we can do about it, how it has to end, and what it can look like. We need to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah,
it's really important, especially after yesterday.
The substitution programs, like they want to do the substitution programs and give out clean meds and clean cocaine and clean heroin, then start weaning them off with clean cannabis. Like we know that high dose edibles help people. We know this. Whether it's it's not going to help, or whether it's shatter, but we know that these things are beneficial to some. Like I'm not going to say 100% to everybody, because nothing works 100% for everybody.
Right.
We all know that, right? Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, though, if we started having these conversations with mental health services and started having these conversations with doctors and having the conversations with law enforcement, maybe it would open the doors to more substitution programs available for cannabis. But again, we've got work to do still. Like let's face it. And we've got other constitutional challenges and stuff that are not constitutional challenges so much, but Jerry Martin's case is right around the corner. That could change a lot of things for us. Jerry Martin.
Can you give me the scoop on that, as I'm not aware?
Okay, so Jerry Martin had a dispensary out in Wildwood, Saskatchewan, and they busted So he's been charged with trafficking and possession and money laundering and all kinds of things. So Paul Lewin, again, is his lawyer, thankfully. And I think they go to trial here in the next couple of weeks. I think it's like 2 weeks away. It's getting really, really close. And I have faith that Paul will be able to change some things. But again, Sarah and Sean won a constitutional challenge in Alberta, which was allowing dispensaries. Again, to take it all the way to the Supreme Court, we're looking at another $1 million. They've decided they don't have the funds to do that. So it's unfortunate. But and let's face it, the Cannabis Committee doesn't have the funds to fund these things anymore. A lot of people are on disability and don't have even the $10 to spare. That's the unfortunate thing about legal cases. They cost $1 million. Point blank, it's $1 million to run a case. And like I said, even if the lawyers are doing it pro bono, they still have court costs and all this stuff that pile up along the way. And over a 3-year period, you can run into about $350,000 just in court costs. That's not paying a lawyer, right?
But does the lawyer, if the case wins, doesn't the other side have to pay the lawyer and pay all those expenses? Like, doesn't that fact because there's got to be some incentive
it depends on the
for
judges,
a lawyer to want to make a name for themselves and take there should be a lawyer out there that would want to take that case to the Supreme Court. Like, you're making history, and wouldn't, if you won, and I'd say you'd have a good chance of winning given what we've already won at the Supreme Court. Wouldn't they be incentivized to do it, and with the idea that they'd be paid once they won? I mean, I know it's not a guarantee. I get that. But again, they'd still be making history. But I just can't see us not winning. I can't see how Section 7 of the Charter doesn't apply to letting medical people make a living, not starving to death. We who brought legalization on our disabled, sick, and crushed shoulders, that we, not be given access to the markets. It's just I find that tyrannical, that the government is, being tyrants. And that's what Section 7 protects us from.
Here's my stance on that. I think we put too much energy into worrying about the government trying to fuck us, because I don't think the government has time, to be honest with you, to sit individually and think, okay, we're going to fuck that guy and we're going to screw this guy.
Well, they could have just made it so that we could have been allowed into the market with some regulations without giving all of the benefit to their rich friends and, former cops. It doesn't look good for Canada. It really doesn't. The first thing that Como said in New York was, Black people and Latino people, brown people will, not just have expunges, but will have access to, jobs and, having dispensaries. And they did that in California. That was the first thing they did. But in Canada, good old, nice old, we like to say sorry. Well, not enough, as far as I'm concerned. Canada, we like to think we're so much better. We don't have as bad a racism. Well, we have 1/10 of the population, and yes, we have systemic racism. And we were all watching yesterday's verdict, and every person I know, many times on the street when I had to deal with cops and I was toking, that I was able to walk away because I was white. I know that, and that's white privilege. And we just, we have to be honest about that. So we need to change that. And the only way we could change that is, by having dialogue. But, it would help if the government helped. And that's, what they should be doing. So that's why, I'm always mad at them and always write them letters. They gotta have a big filing cabinet with my name on it by now.
You know what I mean? My mom worked, like I said, my mom was a union steward for many years too. And I guess, the government's fucked them over a lot too, when it comes back to wages and rolling back wages for public servants. So mom was a union shop steward for many years. And I remember when they were rolling their wages back, and when Harper lost that money and they had to lose 30% of their pensions. And it was atrocious what was happening to public service, right? And mom said the best thing and my mom would give me, even though my mom wasn't really in tune to my activism because of the cannabis portion of it, she'd give me little pieces of advice. And the first thing she said to me, she goes, send them paper. Write them as many letters till they tell you to stop because they can't handle it. Because that's what the public servants did when they lost their pensions. They sent in so many letters on written paper that the Parliament Hills, they couldn't take anymore. So I often said before, we've had the postcard campaigns and stuff through cannabis as well. But some ways to get to them is the old-fashioned way: phone bombs, paper. Like emails seem to be just, generated back, and nobody really sees the email because the assistant's getting it, and I know that's how they work. They got parliamentary assistants and stuff that do their work and see their emails and answer for them, and they're not actually seeing it. And that's what pisses me off. So when you've
Well,
got
some of
paper,
them
it's
do because,
personal and confidential on it,
I email a
and you write
lot.
personal and confidential on it, right? So if you do it in paper
Right.
and you write personal and confidential on the envelope, their assistant can't open it.
Right.
That means
Well,
it's
I would sometimes go and, into offices and ask for meetings. And sometimes I got meetings. And I did have a lot of assistants, like, who had read my emails or whatever. Like, I had a few of them tell me that they really enjoyed reading them. And, because I do like to be creative. And I kind of like to go to the edge. Like, I mean, I'm never, threatening any violence or anything, but I was raised a Catholic, so I feel like, my inner shame cup is always half full, and I always have to get rid of it. And that's where I direct it. And, and so it, all of it. I mean, certainly, in the old queer days, we definitely did the postcards, but, we would go to, like, we would try to get the NDP and the Liberals to kind of fight over us. You know what I mean? Like, who wants our vote, whatever. So we'd go to their barbecues and their barbecues, and, we would say, we're getting this out of them. What are you going to give us? I mean, we did try to play them off of each other.
Well, yeah, it's called negotiation,
and I still
right?
believe in doing that. Yeah.
It's called negotiation.
Like middle child syndrome,
Well, they won't let us become legal lobbyists because we don't have the money behind us. That's one thing with cannabis. Like, you had all these lobbyists that were against cannabis and working within Parliament, or the ones that were for cannabis that were all, being paid $25 an hour because you have to be a registered licensed lobbyist to do any of this stuff. And none of us were. Like, none of us were legal lobbyists, and it was really tough to get any policy pushed forward. And we did it without being legal lobbyists. Like, if you really think about it, legalization came around.
Yeah.
Our NGOs and our groups were not legal lobbyists. We still got the policies pushed through. That liberal convention we were at was epic, Loretta. Like, the last day, and the young liberals went in with that, and as a delegate, we got to vote, and I got to vote because I was a delegate for the Crowfoot riding, and being able to put yes beside that on that ballot that day, it just was empowering. It was just like, finally. And then when the vote came through that they were going to adopt it into policy, me and Kelly, you were there, we cried. Like, I was like, fuck, we did it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was elation.
All
but
forms of engagement are so important, and especially that one. Absolutely.
And Sangita was,
yes, that is how you make changes.
And Sangita was the leader of the Liberal Young Liberals that wrote it, and she was instrumental, and she still works for the Liberal Party. She's now an organizer for volunteers and all kinds of stuff. So if you phone into the Liberal Party, sometimes you'll get her on the phone. And she still remembers who I am, which is really, because I'm still pretty involved with our Kootenay Liberal Riding Association. I will be, working with our candidate, Robin Goldsberry, who's our candidate here last time and this time as well. And I'm not a falter. I guess, I've been called a waffler in the past. I don't waffle. I don't. I stand up for what I believe in, and if you don't fucking like it, you can call it whatever you want. That's just the way it goes.
I can't see you waffling. I just can't see it.
No, because right. But yeah, apparently I was. Yeah. Anyways, it goes back about 10 years. But again, I get called all kinds of names because I'm a liberal, and I'm okay with that. Because you got to have a little thicker skin than most if you're going to be in the business that we're in.
Activism, for sure. That's probably because I guess you live out west, right? Like, maybe because there's more of an anti-liberal sentiment. Do you think out west?
Everything's conservative.
It seems like it.
It filters from Alberta, especially into southeast British Columbia here, because we have mines, and because of the industry of mines, and because Alberta's all oil, and it is, and Alberta now too with the mines, it's really conservative out here, super conservative. Like, our MP is conservative. Our BC Liberals are not Liberals. BC Liberals are actually conservatives. And that's what pisses me off about the BC Liberals. Christy Clark gave the Liberals a bad fucking name in British Columbia because of the Liberal behind her name. And now everybody thinks that a Liberal is like Christy Clark, when in reality, a Liberal out here is like Stephen Harper. So,
wow.
And that's the misconception. Get called out, So again, it's just politics. And again, with so much change going forward, I mean, COVID has changed everybody. Let's face it. The last year and a half has been a real eye opener for our extended cares, our long-term senior homes.
Paid sick leave has got to be a must.
Exactly, paid sick leave, racism.
Absolutely.
It's really showed the colors of, or not the colors, the wrong word, the true selves of people. You know what I mean? Like it really has.
Masked with COVIDiots that deserve
Right.
to be in prison at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
You know,
They put them in prison, they won't have to wear a mask. I'm really mad at them.
Well,
you know?
again, yeah, I know. If our prisons were,
I have that side to me. I mean, I've been a protester all my life and on the front lines. But, to see them in Montreal not wearing a mask, 4,000 of them shouting in each other's faces, like basically having a super spreading event, yelling about the charter, which they don't really know anything about, but they've just decided that they want to be a protester at this particular time because of, their low capacity is all I could say, that they actually don't care about human beings.
It's actually called entitlement.
Well, it is white privilege. It's actually, there's a lot of white privilege in what, what I'm seeing. But I'm like saying to a friend of mine who is a cop, round them up and throw them in prison. And she's like, well, for a protester, that's a bit much. I go, they're not protesters. They're super spreaders. Don't call them protesters.
Right?
So, yes, I guess, I could be a dictator in a pandemic. Yes, I could. For the sake of the vulnerable, I could.
Well, exactly. Like, in hindsight, though, like, it's entitlement. Like, they don't understand the charter. They've probably never read it. But again, like I said, it just shows the true selves of people. If you're not willing to put somebody else's health before your own, and your own health before your anything, I've been I've got Taven home from school this week, and his friends are all calling me a psycho and a germophobe, and I'm like, you know what? I don't give a flying fuck what they think. You're not going to school because we've got fucking 28 or more cases now. Who knows? And I posted that the child minding at the gym had an exposure. The high school has had positive cases, and I'm not putting my kid out there. And like I said to his teacher, if I was 30, like the rest of the other moms, I might not be so paranoid. But I'm 51. I've got autoimmune problems as it is. I take drugs that make me clinical.
You're the boss.
And I don't give a fuck. Like, my son's going to be safe. My husband works in Alberta. He can't go back to being exposed.
Yeah. No, you're the boss, and do what feels right. That's what I say to all mothers. Like, you're in charge of the household, and or whoever is, do what feels right. Protect your family. Protect yourselves. First and foremost.
I just keep that the school cops to come knock on the door and say your kid's not in school, but he has teachers bringing him home.
That'd be ridiculous.
Well,
that would be ridiculous.
Now, who knows, right? Like, they never gave us an online hybrid option in British Columbia. Once the kids went back to school, it was either go back to school or keep them at home online. And I couldn't get him home. I couldn't get him online. There was so much registration. There was no room for him for an online school, and they didn't have.
That's where they got to do better,
right? So we couldn't do the hybrid version. It was too late, and by the time I got all the stuff in, so I had no choice but to put him in school because I'm not a homeschooler. Like, my girlfriend Deidre tried homeschooling Blake here in town, and it lasted for just till after Christmas, and then it was just too much. Like,
lots of parents can't do it, and I understand why they want their kids at school, but. Also, again, all the provinces were given money for ventilation, and basically in Quebec, they were just told, open up the windows. And sure, that's better than no windows. But, ventilation is a key component to preventing this disease too. The same with the rapid testing, the sick paid leave. I mean, we've had to learn all these lessons, sadly, on, so many people who have died. But not just, they take a tally of the deaths every year. Like, I think in Quebec, there's thousands of extra deaths, that aren't COVID, but, well, some of them probably are, but they're COVID related. And yesterday, when I was giving out some 420 gifts to my beloved glass blowers, one of them told me that he had 14 friends who have died since the beginning of the pandemic, most of them from overdoses, a few from some hardcore suicides. And, this is again, why I'm, going to rant on about lounges and how important they are for saving lives, for having like group meetings, and yes, for maybe having community meetings with police on changing the dynamics of systemic racism and racial inequality, but also like, let's provide jobs for those who can't get jobs because they were arrested because of the drug war. Like, that's what's fair. That's, to me, economic restitution, and something that the government, should be, supporting. And, we, the people, can come up with the programs needed the most. But we could also have lounges that are somehow involved in testing of, harder drugs with a view of, yes, harm reduction. I mean, maybe cannabis, like you said, doesn't work for everyone because nothing does. But we know it works for a lot of people if they have the opportunity to have, hits of shatter instead of opiates, that could save their lives. And, just not having a place where people can't gather and not be so lonely. I mean, I'm sure with, so many overdoses and suicides, it's the loneliness that have killed people. So, we need the lounges for that as well, for so many issues that we could actually do so much better with.
Well, even without a pandemic, there's so many people out there that struggle with depression and anxiety and loneliness without a pandemic has just kind of excelled that. And that's really unfortunate. They've lost so many people. Like, I just, there's no words. There's no words for that. People that just have so much despair. And like, and I'm finding too, I've got, friends too that, kind of, and I hate to say this, and I'm going to say this like with no disdain or prejudice, but I've got some people that are sick of hearing about fucking microdosing. They're sick of being told that their antidepressants and stuff, they should just microdose psilocybin. And they've been doing that and it didn't help them. And now they've gone to a doctor to get some antidepressants and stuff. That's their choice. But don't belittle
whatever
them.
works. Whatever
don't belittle
works.
them for doing that. And do not fucking make fun of their mental health or their fucking struggles in life. And don't tell them to fucking like take them for a little bit, then go off them and see what happens. You don't do that either. You listen to your doctor, and I know some doctors are quacks and some doctors are, the best. But you know what? Those doctors go to school for a lot of fucking years and spend a lot of money on education not to become quacks. You know what I mean? Like, I just, when I see the frontline workers and our healthcare workers now fighting this fucking disease, please do not fucking tell me that every doctor out there is a quack. Because you'd be like, there are some, like, don't get me wrong. There definitely is some, like, there are bad doctors, just like there's bad professionals in every profession.
No, for sure.
But please,
the thing is, if antidepressants or anti-anxiety pills work for you, then that's fantastic. That you can get something that works. But I think the other thing about lounges, it's also a place where people can go. And also when we talk about, music is medicine, and your great little friend, Madison, that, lounges, could also, raise up local talent like that, and glass blowers too, who are such a part of the cannabis community. But, music for sure, but also comedy. Definitely Toronto really, started that comedy and cannabis scene. I would say Joey was, 100% the pioneer on that. And it's such a beautiful combination. We had a lot of sessions in Montreal, like, secret lounge nights before the pandemic, comedy nights, and, people loved it. So, but it's also because even, a lot of people would come who, and that this is when it is really community-based too, that didn't even use cannabis because they just wanted to be in the good vibes, and they wanted to see the comedy, and they want to come together with people, so it's as much about that, that it's important, as well as, yes, the cannabis part is very important too, but it's also maybe, having programs that can say, we have this issue in the neighborhood, how can we help this issue? Nothing's going to be solved overnight. Like, we can't end systemic racism overnight, but we can sure, go towards that goal by having engagement and coming up with strategies, with tools. I want to approach, there's a political group called the Block Pod in Montreal, and I want to say to them, and I've talked to some who are associated, whatever, like, look, you should go to the police and say you want to be on a committee, and this is to stop having protests turn into looting and broken glass, and there's always, an element that takes over, and I'm very suspicious of who this element is at times, but, it's just, as a way to, make protesters look like criminals, and then justify having like the police look like they're going to war. They got like so much, like they look like they're ready, they got military garb on, you know what I mean? And that is like, because I come from Toronto and decades of protests where we worked with the police, that we would phone, we wanted to work with them initially because the media was always lying about how many people we had at our marches. We'd have like 10,000 or we'd have like 50,000, and they would say, 500 people showed up at Gay Pride Day, or, or 1,000. They would really they'd take off a zero. And we knew that the cops, knew how to like measure, by, block, approximately. And so we did also call them and say, look, we're going to do this, and we're going to sit down at Yonge and Wellesley for 15 minutes, and we're going to block traffic for 15 minutes. But we kept our word. We blocked traffic for 15 minutes. And then we got up and we unblocked traffic. And, and then they were, yes, they were there at times. At times they weren't even there, it seemed. But then everything really changed, when Harper came into power and, he set some, goons on G20. And that, and it was, and it seemed to change from that moment on. And because I had such, a long time experience of protesting before that moment, I can't, get that out of my system, that we can't get back to that. And I don't know if Montreal even ever had that, because it always has more of an intense protesting scene more than anywhere in Canada, it seems. But, if there was ever a committee that could actually, say, we're the protest committee, and sitting across the table from the community cops who, like to make a protest, a healthy protest, because if you don't have good, healthy protests, you just don't have a good democracy. And the more militarized that these, protests / riots look like, the worse it is for our democracy. So we have to change that. And lounges can do that too.
Right. On that note, we're going to have to thank our sponsors. We're going to have to take a 2-minute break and thank our sponsors. Yes, so you've been listening to us live on paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
The People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network provides its listeners with news, information, and a place to be heard. This is done with a twice-weekly broadcast of the Reefer Reporters and by providing cannabis advocates a place to be heard through Cannabis and Coffee with Tamarijuana and the award-winning Pace Radio Show. Catch it all here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
What is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network? It's a network of people advocating cannabis education.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
We are People Advocating Cannabis Education here at paceradio.net.
And we're back with Loretta. It's those behind the scenes, I was doing the countdown, so we'll all just kind of sit there silently waiting. And then it's like,
unusual for us bitches to be quiet.
So again, like I said, we've had some pretty historic things happen in the last couple of days, but again, it all leads back to the drug war, and the fact that we need poverty, and exactly. But Vancouver City Council is looking at decriminalizing all small amounts of drugs. I wish it would be provincial wide, but right now the province and of course Canada wide, but I didn't see that coming forward in the budget for any funding for harm reduction in the new budget. But of course it's 700 pages. It might be in there somewhere. But again, like this is something that's affecting everywhere. Like even in Cranbrook this past weekend, we have a place in town that's a house that there's 5 overdoses over the weekend out of. So, like 3 that were brought back. Narcan. I don't think anybody passed away, but I don't know. They don't advertise that stuff. But I live around the corner from it, and the ambulances and the fire trucks were there on a steady basis all day Friday and all day and up until Saturday night. And I think of these poor people that don't have, that have that disdain for life, because I was there once in my existence too, where just nothing mattered. Life didn't matter, nothing mattered. There was nothing. It was just all deadness. And that's where you're at when you're addicted. There's no hope, no faith, everything's just dead inside. And it's so sad that the mental trauma that people go through to get that far down, and you can't stigmatize them. You need to help them. But sometimes they don't want to be helped either. So it's a really, really hard trauma to deal with, being a person that wants to help too. That you have people in your life that don't want help. Because I have a daughter.
There's nothing easy about it. It's all hard. It's all hard. But at least like if people had a place where other parents, sisters, brothers were in the same situation, at least you don't feel so alone in dealing with a loved one that you can't help, and that's where people need support. And then for those who feel like they're dead inside, like, if they had a place where they could go and be with other people who feel dead inside too, and, if it's just small steps and just feeling a need of support. I mean, there's so much evidence that harm reduction does work, and we could be saving a lot of money on frontline services like fire and police and whatever if we have testing sites where people could test their drugs, but
I think we
also,
should have stores. I think we should have stores
lounges
just like
with meetings
stores.
for
That these
people
can
who,
go into. Like seriously, they should have like the stores just like for cannabis and liquor, for cocaine, meth, heroin, anything that's illicit, ketamine, whatever these people, and have it safe. Have it so that it's
yeah, for sure.
100% tested, so that
Sure,
we're
lounges
because
could be part of
save
that. Yes,
exactly that would save
yes,
hundreds of lives on a
yes,
daily
yes, of course
basis.
it
On a
would.
daily basis, and that's the problem. We're not even dealing with drug problems anymore. We're
And it
dealing
would
with
save
toxic.
money.
Yes,
It would save so much
absolutely. And
money.
resources and so much money.
Yeah,
But until we get the governments to see that healthcare needs more funding, and this is a health issue, complete health issue, and they put as
yeah,
much money into our healthcare as they're putting into our police forces, we need
yes.
to see that change. And I don't want to see defunding
Refunding,
police forces. I do not want to see defunding of
refunding.
policing.
Yeah,
We need to refund and redirect the money.
yes,
I don't want to see that. I
yes.
don't want to see defund the police forces. They've been cut back enough already. We have such scant resources now. They can't even. The reason why the Ontario police forces can't enforce, or the BC police forces can't enforce these travel bans, is because they've scantily cut back so much that they don't have enough policemen. Calgary is always screaming for. They were recruiting in Britain, for Christ's sakes, because Canadians do not want to be police force anymore either. Young people do not want to be cops because it's a dangerous job and you could die. I have a lot of
Right.
respect for policing. I don't have a lot of respect for bad policing, but I have a lot of respect for policing, because when you get into that line of work, you're putting your life before everybody else's. So I
Right.
have a lot of respect for some of those
Tough.
men and
Yeah.
women out there that are actually doing the job to serve and protect. There's always going to be those bad apples in every profession
Well,
we've got
we
out
got to
there.
get rid of the bad apples. That's
Exactly.
that's just got to be like an absolute must. And they have to be retrained to be different, because
Absolutely.
I think
Mental
the
health
drug
therapy
war really definitely trained them to be more thuggish. Like, that's just the truth. And so that's why we got to end that.
The system treats like it's a 2-year course at a college. And then if you want to go into the RCMP, I believe it's only another like 18 months after that. So the training, they have to go back to the colleges, to the educators, to the places that they start these people to begin with. So it's not just a revolving door of just police force. It goes back to the training, to the colleges, to the universities that these people are going to begin with. Criminal justice courses that are at the Lethbridge Community College, okay? And they've got one here too, criminal justice courses. And then you can go into forensic science and all that kind of cool stuff too. But again, the basic criminal justice course is 2 years. It's not enough. There's not enough mental health training and trauma training and all the other stuff that goes. Social working is a 4-year course. So how can you have a cop come out of criminal justice over 2 years, and you got a psychologist or a social worker that's got to go to school for 4 years? Those cops should be going to school for social working as well as criminal justice. It should be encompassed as one.
Yeah.
Just thoughts.
True.
You
No, definitely more education, more training, and de-escalation 100%. And we don't need to if we have good protests, there's no need for tear gas. You can defund the tear gas.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to have tear gas. Absolutely not. But also, we cannot let a group of people take over the protests and create all this violence and harm to that just is not acceptable. It shouldn't be happening. So there needs to be strategies and tools in place that, have resources that, people can be paid to be part of these working committees, and, to make protests what it should be, a pillar of democracy, a very important part of democracy, not to be militarized and no tear gas. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I know.
I
agree. I agree 110% on that, because like I said, there's just so much change. But like I said, as I see our future moving forward, I see a lot of changes that have happened in the 50 years that I've been alive. And I'm sure you have too. Like, we often talk about 10 years ago, never really seeing legalization of cannabis. And here we are. And we've gotten it. So, and like I said, with that historic verdict yesterday, where an actual
for sure, major change,
convicted. So, I see positive change coming. It's a long time, and people are tired. And again, COVID has not helped the situation in any way, shape, or form. But maybe it has. You know what I mean?
Yes, it'll make the changes come. faster. It will.
because
It will bring, it will speed up some things that, like, I do really see, lounges there will be like a lot of lounges in, 2 to 5 years. They're going to be like, I think, in a lot of places, even in Quebec, even though it might be harder here, but maybe Ontario first, especially now with what Ontario's going through. But there were some that were going to open just before the pandemic. I think that'll be sped up. There'll be like combination of lounges and dispensaries. Like I saw one that was going to open, I think it was like on Pape Avenue, and it looked like a little coffee shop type. But in the back, it was going to be like where people could buy their clones, their 4 clones, and so, there can be all sorts of different versions of what lounges could be. I just do want the ones that, honor and recognize the importance of medical, and that, medical was always about saving lives, and we should still, go with that. I know that there's a lot of people who became medical who were just, exploitive and really didn't give a shit. I mean, I think COVID has shown their true colors, and to them, I say shame on them, for tarnishing medical. Medical should be about, life-saving strategies and, building programs and helping and saving and protecting vulnerable people. That's what medical, for me, medical on the front lines of HIV, that's where, that was the spirit. And I think that's a spirit that needs to, not be diminished just because recreation has all the money and blah, blah, blah. No, we're not letting the
unfortunate thing. That's the unfortunate thing. It's just that over time it's been money. And who has the most, sure. And my husband often says this. He'll say, who has the most money wins. And he's right.
Yeah. I know. That's capitalism.
It's true. Right. And here we are, I had an argument the other day with somebody about, Pierre Poilievre should be the leader of the Conservative Party, blah, blah. I started laughing. I said, first of all, the guy's a piece of shit. Sorry, not sorry. Secondly, he had the opportunity to run as leader, and he didn't have enough money. Because unbeknownst to everybody, not every politician is rich. Some of them are really uber rich, but some of them aren't. And in hindsight, right, to run for a leadership position in any party, you're looking at over $100,000 out of your own pocket. I know for a fact here that the fellow that ran for our MLA spent over $90,000 out of his own pocket to win to be an MLA. And the girls that were running against him had no money. So, of course, it's who has the most money wins. And that's how it all seems to roll down, even in politics. I hate to say it.
I have a solution. If we got rid of our Senate, which it seems to be, this idea of the Senate being sober second thought is like an aristocratic model that is way outdated and, again, kind of too whitey privilegey.
Yeah.
If we got rid of that Senate and we had like an elected Congress that was only low income and marginalized people could run, then we could have a way better democracy, way more efficient and way more fair, because it's true. Money, that's,
well,
money
people often ask me why I haven't
been used to, make our society more conservative. Our society is not conservative in Canada, but who has the most money? Often.
Well, I know I've often been asked why I haven't run, and well, besides my criminal record, which actually I can't get a job mainstream, but I could run for MP with a criminal record. I could run for any political position I wanted with a criminal record, which is okay, great. I'm glad about that.
But you have to have money. You have to have been a successful criminal that you had to have been somebody who was selling hundreds of pounds. Not just a 3.5 in the mail, girlfriend.
Right? I was never that criminal. Sorry, I got busted with $6.15 because I gave it away, for fuck's sakes. You know what I'm saying? It's a gift in the mail. Now you can legally send 30 grams. I sent 4 and I got busted. What the fuck? Anyway.
I mean, really. Insane.
It is what it is. It's insane.
You should have sent 100 pounds.
Right? But being this great, big, huge trafficking criminal drug dealer that I apparently was at some point in time, I'm broke. And I never was rich. So I could never run for politics because I don't have any money. But hey, if anybody wants to fund me, I'll run. That's the funniest thing, yeah. if you really want to fund me. But again, I don't think I'd ever get past the vetting, because I know what Robin had to go through with the vetting process to become an MP, and they're pretty scrutinizing and they're pretty thorough. And she had posted something about small business like 5 years before against the government, and they found it and made her take it down. And that was the only thing they could find.
Do you think all the times that I went to Facebook prison for calling conservatives conservatives would be a barrier?
No, that might be a kick. That might be get you a first fucking row seat with the Liberals. With the
No. And this is why, like, my low income marginalized Congress, we won't. We're gonna let a lot of things slide on that side, baby.
Yeah.
Because, of course we're more crude. Of course I'm more crude. I've been I've been in the ghetto my whole life. You know what I mean? Of course I have a little crude side. What do you expect? Come on.
I love people who've got money say they're broke, and they I got $10,000 in my bank account. I'm broke. I'm like, holy fuck, would it be nice to have $10,000 floating in my bank account? You know what I mean? That some people just don't even get the concept of what broke is. Like, they've never had to use a food bank. They've never been a single parent trying to raise kids on $6 an hour and trying to live. Like, don't tell me about, going to a food bank, raising 3 kids on $6 an hour. Then this is the reality, though, of 90% of Canadians even now today. I mean, yes, the Liberals have pulled a lot of children out of poverty with the child tax benefit. And yes, there's a lot of things, a universal income benefit would be great, like, for everybody. But again, we have to look at the fact that people are still living in fucking poverty now in 2021.
Oh yeah. The more we can, that's why, like, and I think it's Andrew Yang who ran for president in the U.S. He was so smart because he talked about universal income, and he even does it himself to a large number of people because he's a wealthy man. But to prove his point, like, it's actually will help grow the economy. But he talked about people that he gives $1,000 a month to, and how so-and-so bought a guitar and, goes out in the street and does some busking, but the main thing is, he's being creative. The people, they will use that money to be creative. They'll put that money back in the economy, but people essentially do want to engage. This is why, again, I think, where the lounges would be such a huge success, because people do want to engage creatively. They do. And if you make people desperate, which so many people are who are living in poverty, of course, you're going to have a crime rate that's, higher. It's just like, it seems to me it's so obvious what the answer is. But then, of course, you have, right-wing people who freak out and, call people like me a snowflake and a communist and a this and a that and whatever. And yesterday when I did my little lounge rant in front of like an old Pompier station, fire stations were a socialist construct, but nobody ever like called them socialists or communists, even though their fire trucks were red and are red. But, they were there to prevent, fires and save lives, and they were well paid and still are. And, people see the benefit. Nobody like screams at them and calls them communists and socialists.
Oh,
but it's just an
because even
fact,
like the fire brigade here was all volunteer until and people were kind of like complacent about fire departments until part of the town burned down. And then they realized that volunteer fire department wasn't the way to go. They actually had to get a fire department and actually pay people to become fire. And let's face it, like, how many fire departments, like, back in the old days, people would drop off babies at fire departments rather than dropping them off at police stations because they felt there was more compassion at a fire hall than there would be at a police station. That speaks volumes even now. You know what I'm saying?
Fire departments do participate in the community and do things. They were always doing things. But, I do see that like community-based lounges could be like what fire halls were once, except very different, of course, but meaning that we have them, in every neighborhood, and every neighborhood has different issues, and whatever those issues are, people who work in these community-based lounges, with professional social workers and community-based researchers, they come up with programming. But it's like the people in the neighborhood are getting the jobs, and the people who have been stigmatized and have barriers because of the drug war are getting the jobs. Like that, it's just a question of fairness. And, the way legalization has rolled out in Canada has been incredibly unfucking fair. So I'm glad you're talking about that case about the medical dispensary, because we need to be able to have them, and we need to, not be in fear of, constantly being criminalized just to serve, these elites. Like, it's just so wrong. I hope you're listening, Justin.
Yeah.
I take it you're not.
Would not be something, right? Exactly. Like, I've often said lots of things on here.
One of your eight.
I hope somebody's listening. I highly doubt they are. We could, pipe it in, send them a link. But, that's the thing. Like, you often wonder who actually does listen. I've said that many times. Why do I keep doing this? Because maybe nobody's listening. But even if we're reaching just a couple people a week, it really makes a difference to some people to have just that consistent radio, that consistent audio, that consistent show, right? Like, just to have that same familiarity. Like, that's why we keep doing these shows. Like, I mean, I've thrown my hands in the air a couple times. In fact, I'm on IWK, and last week totally forgot about doing my my Friday night sesh. It was like, because it was Alvin's home and things were going on. It's like, oh shit, and but people rely on that, and they do. Like, I
you're a chronic warrior. You're a warrior. You know what chronic illness is. And here's the truth of this too, is that there's going to be so many people after this pandemic, and myself included, it seems these days, who are going to have chronic issues. And, the chronic warriors, the cannabis chronic warriors, are the natural leaders on how to live your life. And yes, cannabis is, a great help. There's other things that can be done. I'm a real believer in walking as an underrated medicine, but, music too is medicine. Being creative, encouraging creativity, definitely medicine for the social health of every community. So, if we have a center point where these things can grow out of, and we'll have a much healthier, society all around, for sure.
Well,
changes do come in small increments.
Like, we can always start small. We can always start small with private clubs. So you can have a small private, like, we need to do is like rent a place, and then just have like small, like have it a lounge, not be public membership, right? That's how we got started in the back in the day. If we have to go back to our roots, we can. And that's the good thing about cannabis, is that we got roots to bear from. And we've got lots of good people out there that are willing to put their neck on the line. And we've got people out there that are willing to protest and go to the government and do these things. And if we didn't have that community base for cannabis, we wouldn't be where we are. So we have to thank the pioneers before us that did push forward. The Hitzig K's, Terry Parker Jr., Deb Stout-Skiffen, all Allison Murden, like the Smith trial, Allard, like there's so many, Sean Howell, like there's so many now Jerry Martin. So again, like I'm pretty sure that's coming up next week. They start. I know it's all going to be done virtually. I believe, just from watching his feed, he's going to be testifying via Zoom. I'm not sure if anybody can attend via Zoom. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. Right. But supporting him is, supporting the rest of the patients that he's fought for. And the fact that he was willing to stick his neck on the line to open a dispensary in Wildwood, Saskatchewan, of all places. You know what I mean? Yeah. To stick it, to try and make a difference. So we have to really thank those people. How you feel about them personally really is irrelevant. It's what they've done for work and what they've done to, push forward. And democracy is cannabis is one of those things. We fought really hard because we felt it was our right to be able to maintain our own body, medically, physically, whatever way, right? And as adults, as long as you're not harming yourself or anybody else, and even if you are harming yourself, that's up to you. It's your body. I hate to say that, but it's your choice. If you want to harm yourself, I guess that's up to you. Unfortunately, it's not always in your best interest. But again,
I loved your show with Dana. I know I've told you that many times. Like, because the real truth is, everybody's on drugs. I don't even know how long you can be born before they stick a drug in you these days. But basically, if you drink coffee and tea, like, everybody's got a drug of choice. It's just like some drugs are illegal, and then once they become illegal, then there's this whole dangerous, despicable poisonous game. And, it creates a crime factory. That's all that the war on drugs created, was a factory of harder, more core, dangerous, and, so many vulnerable people just getting swept up. But then, if we went like Portugal, decriminalize all drugs, have them basically available through, some kind of, get nurses involved. I love nurses, that harm reduction centers that could be parts of lounges, and people could come in and get a safe drug or have their drug that they bought on the street tested to, know that they're not going to die from this drug. Like,
right.
Just a common sense approach. And many people, I'm sure there's many rich people who do heroin and, get a clean supply of heroin and nobody really knows it. And, they could be living to 80 years old, you know what I mean? Because of their privilege and whatever, and their location and this and that. But, we want people to be healthier and, don't, put dangerous things in their bodies, but everybody does put, even the food we eat, it's processed and poisoned and whatever. So, I mean, it's, this idea that, only these, people over here who have mental health issues, who, could be dealing with poverty and fucking childhood trauma, who are using illegal, hardcore drugs are the problem, or they're the drug users. I mean, I just hate how the drug war has been so cruel to these people. And, these people are us and people we know. And it's just so wrong and unfair and mean to not care enough. And that they're always subjected to, if they're on the street, they're subjected to hostility from everyday people, from police hostility. Like, they can't escape their trauma. They're just constantly being re-victimized and re-traumatized. And it just, haven't we seen enough of it that it's, time to drastically change it?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Okay, my dear. Well, on that note, we have ran out of time. Again,
we do talk a lot, but it has been, enlightening and lovely. And I'm so grateful to Al, so grateful to you, and for the PACE Network, which is pioneering 100%.
Yes, 100%. And we are going to try and get our show coming up, the Cannabis Connection. And we're going to get that. We're going to get that going here. I'm going to get the logos, I think, done today. We're going to get the website and stuff up going in the next day or so. I'm going to keep working on practicing. And like I said, with or without you having a computer, we're going to just call you in because we got to get going on this. And that's my thoughts. We need to bring We need to bring the Quebec people. We do. We need to bring Quebec in, and that's my strong feeling. And just speaking with you in Montreal, being like and again too with Manitoba, we've got very little activism. I mean, Stephen Stairs is there, but I mean, really, we're missing out. And Jeff actually Lundstrom has agreed to be on my show next week, so we're going to join. Jeff's going to join us next week and talk about his new project that he's working on, and a few other things.
Jeff that was on yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love his Tokers event and about honoring, our fallen.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
We're going to talk more about the Tokers Ball. Yeah, the Tokers Ball, and as well, and his micro nursery that he's working on. So so just to be on the show for next week, and then I'm hoping to get Rial back, a Kapler on eventually here too. I do have guests like So next week we'll have Jeff on, and I hope everybody has. Week again. If you can listen and buy Madison's music, please go listen to this gorgeous, talented voice because she is amazing, and buy her album. Go to her website. You can buy it through Amazon, iTunes, whatever. She also has a basket where you can buy directly off of her called it's off Bandcamp. The money then directly goes to her through Bandcamp. It doesn't go through Amazon and iTunes. So you can buy directly through Bandcamp and buy her album. You can choose. She's only charging $7, but you could choose to pay a little more for it if you want to. please do. She's a struggling talent. She's 24 years old, and I think that kid's going to make it big someday. So let's try and support her as much as we can. She also will be on Craig's Mary Jane, Music and Mary Jane on Sunday. And that's another show that runs on our network as well. Craig does that. McCracken does that one. And so, yeah. So everybody have a great week. We'll be talking to you all soon. And I don't know when we're doing Grassroots again next. Probably not till May. So it's till April. I think we've done it this month already. I can't remember. That's how Potzheimer's works. So y'all have a great week. Thanks for joining us live on paceradio.net.
Bless you. Bless you, Wild Tea.
We are
Love you,
people
Loretta.
advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. Their values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.